So today I'm going to talk about how to present with confidence, and pretty much the first thing that I learnt is you got to warm up. So before you warm up, you have to, make yourself feel comfortable and make your voice work and all that sort of stuff. I haven't actually done this for this presentation, so I'm going to do it now. So there's a few things that we do, and if we can all do them as well. So if we all just stand up. Yeah. So put your arms up and side, go. And then go, bo, 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 bo. There we go. We all sound stupid. And then like a kid, when you used to be a kid, you used to go. So do that, go.
This feels like a practical joke.
And then go, la, 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 la. And the next one is roll your R's, so like go.
And you're okay.
Come on, Bill, participate.
I did. That was my rolling.
Oh, that was, okay, cool. And the next one's like a siren, so you go, wee. Do you want to try that one?
Hard no.
Cool. Thanks, guys. You can sit down. They're all okay, that's good. Yeah, so one thing, obviously, when you're warming up, so as an example, like when I used to go to a game, like a coaching, because that's normally where I public speak, I guess, I'd always be in the car by myself, and I'd just be in the car, music cranked up, and just be singing on top of my voice, just doing all these stupid things with your mouth, so when you're actually getting there, you can speak, and you don't mumble, or your mouth's not warmed up. It's just like anything. If you're going to play a sport, you're going to warm up beforehand, so you don't pull a muscle, and it's just like when you speak. So you want to warm up your voice, you want to warm up your lips, warm up your tongue, that sort of thing, so you feel a lot more comfortable when you go there. So that's the first thing. Next one is make yourself feel big. Now, Bill probably knows this because just before our hackathon presentation, I was standing there and I was going like this, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm just making myself feel big." And I remember just looking at me going, oh, "That's so stupid." That's so big. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I do it all the time. So you make yourself feel big. It's one of those interview techniques as well. So if you're sitting there with you, make yourself really small, then you'll feel really small, and you won't have confidence. And if you're standing there before you're about to speak, and you're standing like this, then you won't feel confident. Whereas if you make yourself feel really big, and then you walk out, and you're half as big, so then you actually just keep your posture. So that makes you a lot more confident. So that's not good. That's what we always do. The other one is lean forward. So I got taught this by some speaker we had at Flight Centre, and pretty much he spoke for 3 hours, and I think I only got one thing out of it, and that was basically just to stand on your toes when you're talking. The reason why you stand on your toes is so you're actually presenting and you're leaning forward. Whereas if you stand on your heels, you feel withdrawn from the audience, and it makes you more self-confident, self-conscious, sorry. So you feel like you're pulling back. People that step back like this, and then just keep stepping back, and they might walk forward, but then they'll just always be on the back foot. It comes across to people like it's not confident. Well, I guess you guys can probably tell it's like, I can either stand here like this, or I can stand here like this, and just be standing on my toes. And if you're walking forward, you're actually like standing on your toes, and you feel a lot more confident. It's just about feeling confidently. So if you stand forward, you feel like you're owning it. Obviously, tell a joke. That's a comedian. I don't know his name.
Kevin Hart.
That's it, Kevin Hart. So, yeah, tell a joke if you can. Make the audience laugh to start off with. Obviously, we did that stupid warm-up thing and it made everyone laugh. So there's one little thing, but you can just do anything. Even if you tell a silly joke, tell a joke about yourself. I reckon one of the best ways to break the ice is to make fun of yourself. I actually when I used to do sales way back in the heyday, I walked into a house and I was carrying these suitcases because I was selling cookware. So I was one of those sleazy salesmen. And as soon as I walked in the door, I actually tripped over and just cased myself on the tiles and like split my eye open. And I was just like, oh my God, that was ridiculous. And I was like so injured, and I thought, I've just like messed this up. These people probably think I'm an idiot. And they loved me, and they were like, "Oh, you're such an idiot. That's awesome." And I was just like laughed at myself, and I was like, "Ah." And they're like, "Oh, do you want a coffee? How do you have some cake? Oh, let me get a bandage." And then I bought what I was selling. So it really broke the ice. So making people laugh is always a good benefit. Tripping over, if you fell on a stage, I reckon it would be the best thing you could do, because you might get up and have a laugh at yourself, and then everyone thinks, "Oh, this guy's an idiot." Next one is stop. So when you're talking, if you ever feel like you're losing place of where you are, instead of keep talking and mumbling, just stop. So you stop and you own the room. The person who holds the silence in a conversation or holds the silence in an audience, they're the person who owns the room. So when you're standing there and you just want to stop, then I'm dictating what's going to happen. Does that make sense? So stop's a really good one, and also lets you reset where you're at. So if you lose your place, just stop, think, and the next one is breathe. So you want to breathe. Even when you walk out, the first time you walk out there into a presentation, or if you're public speaking, stand there, don't say anything, take a deep breath, look at someone in the eyes, take a deep breath, look at someone else in the eyes, and then start talking. And if you do that, then you own the room. And it's all about owning the room and feeling confident. So it's all about breathing and relaxing, which is the next one. So if you can relax when you're up on stage, then you can feel more confident, you can be yourself. You don't want to walk up on stage and be the person you're not going to be in real life. So you might walk up on stage and be the person who's like, you know, all charismatic and all that, try to be that person on stage, whereas in real life, you're actually an introvert. The best thing to do is actually be an introvert on stage and just be yourself. And then everyone will just love who you are. Because they will fall in love with you, they don't fall in love with the content or what you're trying to do. Does that make sense? So you're trying to influence them through you. So when they meet you afterwards, they think, this guy's exactly the same person that I just saw speaking up on stage. Or if you're completely different, then they probably won't. They'll probably get all what you said, throw it away like a pinch of salt. LeBron James is probably one of the best speakers of all, best sports people of all time, best NBA players, and he owns the room, and that's what it's about. So if you get up and you own the room and you own the space, which is pretty much what I've been talking about from the start, is owning the space, landing forward on your toes, doing all that sort of stuff, stopping so you own the room. If you can own the space and then everyone is engaged in you, then that's the easiest way to actually bring across your point. If you don't own the space, then people aren't really going to listen to you. I mean, I might not be owning the space right now, and you guys might not be listening to me, which is fine, which just means that it's my fault and I'm not doing it correctly. And I'm not a very good public speaker. From where I think, I'm like about here, and I really want to be up here. But it's taken me a lot of practice to get to there, and I'm still so many things that I do completely wrong. And I know I do them wrong, and I try to work on them, but I don't own the room as much as I like to. I see other coaches, when they speak in front of like 100 people, then they own the room and everyone's just awed by them. Awed by their charisma, awed by how they talk, awed by their body language. And then I get up there and I start talking, and you can see the people in the crowd just nodding off, and you can see people just switching off. So I need to work on that. That's one thing that's really, really hard to do. But it's definitely something that we've all got to try. We've all got to try to own the space, own the audience, and make them do what we want them to do. Make them think, or make them engage in the way we want them to, I guess. I've said it a few times in this presentation already. I've said I've said like. These words are terrible to say when you're speaking. And the best thing to do is to pause. So if you don't know what you need to say, instead of saying instead of saying like, instead of saying, do you know what I mean? Just something I always say, I need to pause and just assume they know what I mean. And just assume they know where I'm at. Instead of saying like, I mean, there's heaps of examples there, like well, sort of, kind of, stuff like that. People say it, and when people say it a lot, people might say it once or twice, and that's fine. But if people say it all the time, if you can imagine like a Prime Minister saying or like, or it's sort of, they look like they're very unconfident. And you probably wouldn't vote for them because you think, how would this person run a country when they can't even speak in front of a camera? So, using those words, and it's probably one of the most difficult things, personally, I've tried to do, because trying to talk and not say these words, you're thinking about it all the time. So it's in your head, and you think, don't say don't say don't say don't say, do you know what I mean? It sounds terrible, don't say it. And when you're trying to think of that and speak, and then you say it, and you go, oh, come on. Probably need a little thing I can flick myself with every time I say it. Do you know what I mean? Flick. So, it's very hard to do, but it's one of those things that we have to practice to do. Next one is obviously be prepared. This one's pretty simple. That was the nice nice little image that I tried to build to help me with, but stuff's up anyway. Doesn't look like I initially thought it would. So, be prepared. So be prepared goes into a lot of different things. So you can either be prepared with your slides and get a designer to actually help you with the slides. So if we were going to do a presentation as a team, say at a conference, then we're obviously probably get Bill to do all the slides for us so they look really nice. Whereas if we were presenting by ourselves, then just be prepared on what you're going to say. You don't want to stand up there and then talk about stats that you forgot. You don't want to say, there was something that I wanted to say with this slide. I forgot what it was. I just must have been prepared. So, if you're prepared, then you can stand up here and talk. Then you can answer any questions anyone throws your way. If you're not prepared, that's a poor thing. Another side of being prepared is practice. So you can, I learned this from, I think I read it in a book or somebody told me, that some president, I can't remember actually who, used to stand in front of the mirror and speak to the mirror, to himself, for hours before he'd make a speech. When I first learned this, I started doing it, and now before on Saturdays, or like a Friday night, I'll be standing in the bathroom and I'll be looking at myself in the mirror and I'll be talking for about 2 hours at myself, and my wife will walk in and wash her hands or brush her teeth or something and go, "What are you doing?" I'd be like, "I'm just practicing." And she's like, "You're so weird, you're such a wacko. I've married someone who's like crazy, you talk to yourself." But if you stand there and you talk to yourself you can see your facial expressions. Like I can't see my facial expressions now. I'll be able to see it when I look on the camera and look at myself and think, "Oh, what did I do? What did I do right? What did I do wrong?" But the facial expressions, you can see them when you're standing in front of the mirror practicing. And then you feel more confident. You think, when I said that, it didn't really look right. When I said this, I look nervous. Or when at that point that I tried to say just then, I didn't say it with the right tone of voice. Or the right facial expressions. Like I looked doubting, or I looked confused. I don't want to look confused. I want to look confident. So you can stand in front of the mirror and practice. And there's nothing wrong with practicing. Even if you're driving on your way to somewhere and you're sitting there and you're looking at yourself in the rearview mirror and it's on you instead of the cars behind. I don't know if this is dangerous or not. But you're standing there and you're just talking to yourself and you're looking at your facial expressions and you're like moving your eyebrows around and your cheeks and all that sort of stuff. So you can actually think, is this correct? Is this not correct? So be prepared. Last one is probably have fun. So it doesn't matter what we do. If you just get up here and have a bit of fun, then it really relaxes you. Get up here and have a bit of fun, then it's a lot more fun for everybody. Like everyone will have fun if the presenter's having fun. Think about the best speakers that you guys know that are the most engaging. They're normally the people that go up there who have fun. They're normally the people who go up there, they can poke fun at themselves. They can poke fun at the crowd. They don't really care that much. Well, they come across they don't really care, but they probably care a great deal. Because we all care a great deal when we're actually presenting. So when we present, we might care a lot, but if you act like you don't and you just like have some fun while you're up there, and if you make a mistake, wash it off. Everyone makes mistakes. The best thing to do is just not to make the same mistake twice. So if we do that, have some fun, then it's all good fun. And that's me. Don't know how long that took. How long did that take?
Not sure. 13 minutes and 40 seconds.
Sure. Oh, that's all right.
Right, boss.
That's mine.
That's good. Any questions?
Now,
We ask questions?
yeah, okay, yeah. Go for questions, I guess.
Have you done that before?
I practiced last night and I practiced in the mirror. I presented to my wife last night and she gave me lots of tips.
In terms of body language, I once heard that it's good to look down. I don't know if it's I think I've heard if it's while you're on TV or whether it's like presenting, but like instead of looking like that, like you look not like really obvious. But I don't know if you've heard it before.
Yeah, so it makes your jaw look bigger.
Does it?
Because people with big jaws come across like
It's similar to standing forward.
Yeah.
Tip.
So I don't know, I've never heard of that, like looking down at someone. I guess you
I
could
think
look down
it
at
might
someone
be-
if you wanted to intimidate them. But because if you want to look like cute, then you have to look up. So, like puppy dogs always look up, and that's why they look cute. Whereas if a puppy dog was huge and it was looking down, it'd probably scare the hell out of it.
Yeah. It might have been on TV. You're doing a TV interview.
Yeah.
I heard that. Not being on TV.
Sit back, yeah.
Like apparently.
apparently if you have your head up as well, it's like when you're talking on the phone, and if you're making a phone call, always sit back and then have your head up and talk like this, even if not, like obviously no one's around, it's not looking at you, so they can't see what you're actually doing on the phone. But if you're standing there and you've got your arms out wide, this is one thing about sales, is you're standing there and you're like walking around going, yeah, and then blah, 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 and you're talking to like this, then you come across and your tone of voice is more confident, so that's probably a big thing as well.
I wonder if that's why something's very expressive in their hands.
Yeah, maybe. Because they come across as confident, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's more, well, when you said about the stance, that reminded me of them looking.
So can I ask what you meant by be prepared? I was going to ask the same thing. What did you want it to look like?
Did it look like it wasn't squished? Like,
It was supposed to be like be prepared, but then I'm not prepared, so I like used the wrong font, so I had to like make it small.
you hadn't finished the slide.
Yeah.
You hadn't
Like I was
finished
like,
doing the slide.
it's like when you write, it probably
Yeah.
would look better if you was like handwritten.
Yeah.
You do say like a little bit.
Sorry.
I think you just said it like 5 times in that one sentence.
It's, yeah.
I've only noticed because you just said it, because you told me though. Otherwise I would have never known.
Yeah.
But when you're answering questions, you put on the spot more. So you would have prepared a presentation, you would have practiced, you said you practice. But answering questions is something you can't really be
Yeah.
prepared for.
I guess that goes with the
You
thing
can
of
practice.
you can practice answering questions, but if you're doing the presentation like the person you normally are, then you should be answering the questions in the same with the presentation. Whereas when I do the presentation, I always try to overdo it a little bit, and that's probably a fault in what I do. So,
I feel like I take on how somebody else is. If they say like a lot, I'll respond to them by saying like a lot. Or that's an example, probably not that exact word, but
yeah.
I often take on what somebody else is.
So if you meant like a real diss, and then like, and then you start talking, stuff like that. Is that what you mean? To that extent?
Not
or?
to that extreme, but yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
The other one that I think is reminded me of, like be prepared, reminded me of this tip or personal experience is that a lot of times just before you're about to do something, whether it's present or whatever, for me, I always have this last minute, let's change something around. And I've always found whenever I've done that, it's bombed. So sometimes, or for me personally, sometimes I think, okay, no, I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to add this extra thing in the last minute because you have all these like brainwaves at the last minute, but I choose to ignore them from now on. Or
Because
learn to ignore them.
your first thought was generally the better thought. So
Yeah, but you're not prepared for them as well.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like 5 minutes before you're about to say something, you think, oh no, I can say that. And then whenever I followed that, it's not worked.
Yeah. I always found that for me, it's sort of very similar, but I always prepare like 10 things. Just said it again. Now I'm like so self-conscious.
Sorry.
And I should be saying it. So if I prepare like 10 things and I only want to say like 3, but then on the spot you go, the audience doesn't look like this, I'm going to say this. And sometimes I just come, like a thought comes to you during your presentation, like while you're speaking, and you're going da 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 da, and you're like something pops in your head, and I'll just go with that and just say
If
that.
you've prepared it as well.
Well, I might not have prepared that, and it might be a story. So I just made 3 stories up in that presentation, which I didn't do last night, purely because they came to me and I thought that's actually quite a good example for this situation. So it makes you think on the spot. They might have been bomb stories, I'll be able to see when I look at the video. Yeah.
So unless you don't have any notes or things to read on, because if I wanted to present, because my presentation I've actually got notes, is that not recommended? Is that part of being prepared, that you have it all in your head?
Yeah. You can have notes, I guess. My notes are just here. That's my notes.
Yeah.
So each slide is like a figure. So you look at it and you think, when I see this, I'm going to talk about this. When I see this, I'm going to talk about this. But everyone's different. Some people need like specific notes to like go through. Some people don't. Some speakers that I've sort of like, I went to the coaching conference and the best speakers sat there in front of the audience and just spoke. And they obviously had all this stuff in their head and they knew their stuff. They were really prepared because they were talking about things they knew. So they would just speak at the just talking and they were asking questions and they were really, really good. And one of the worst speakers was standing there and she basically read the whole thing. And it was a really, like her content was fantastic. The way she presented was like a 1 out of 10 because it was just, you're reading this. You could have just sent this out in a PDF and you could have just read it at home. You know? Whereas the best speakers, and you'll see it all the TED Talks, their notes are just there though. So you can have your notes. So in Keynote, I think you can have your presentation, then you have your notes underneath it. So you can look down and go, there's my presentation, that's the slide I'm to, and with that slide are these notes. So you're looking at the notes. So you can read your notes, but you're not. It doesn't look like you're reading your notes. It's like the president has the little glass things that he reads. So yeah, the teleprompters. So it looks like he's actually being charismatic and knows his stuff.
But he also
reads everything he says.
You know, some people like that have an innate ability to talk off the cuff exceptionally well. You know, like a really good MC, or you know, just it never. Despite the fact that there's probably a lot of preparation, it doesn't feel prepared at all.
Yeah.
If you know
Like for me, I'd have to have bullet points right there to talk to.
But if you knew the content really well, you probably would, and didn't restrict yourself to the dot points, you'd probably be able to talk about it without.
Yeah.
But if you were talking about design,
not
and
me,
stuff
but other people.
Yeah. Well, if you're talking about design and stuff that you really knew really well, and you could just talk about it any day of the week, then talking about it is the same thing.
But it doesn't mean it would be succinct and clear to everybody else.
And the other, sometimes the other thing is you could just be giving a presentation a few times, and that would help you practice and learn it.
It's like a script, really. It's like you're up here acting, and you got a script that you have to read and like remember. And then if you remember your script, then you can say it. You can say it the way you want to say it. It's like when you're doing a sales pitch. When we did sales pitches, it was like 2 hours. It was a 2-hour sales pitch, and after probably 6 months, I could just give you the whole sales pitch, and I wouldn't have to look at anything. I'd just be word for word. Every single sentence or phrase that I'd say that perfectly, say that perfectly, say that perfectly. After 6 months, but it takes 6 months to get there. So it's all about, I guess, presenting and knowing stuff. I would say it's hard though. It's not easy. But the best speakers probably don't use notes. I think, because that's where I want to get to. I don't want to use notes.
I'm terrible at remembering things when I'm in a sit like if I'm standing up there and I just don't remember anything, even after if I'm prepared something.
I think slides like that help. Just one thing. Like oftentimes when I've prepared for something where I've had like every single thing I want to say, I find it really hard to like read and talk, and I end up just like dropping the notes.
Yeah.
And but just preparing the notes helps remember or kind of ingrains what you're going to say. Having things like a slide that just says this is what I'm going to talk about. It helps.
It's like this slide.
Is he smoking?
That's chalk. But he actually stands there and he just goes, and he owns the whole stadium because everyone's looking at him. And so that's what I thought. I thought owns. That's what I have to talk about. I have to talk about owning the spot, and then just think I've got to talk about that. There's 3 stories that I know about that. I have to talk one of those stories. Yeah. But if you're going to detailed content, I was trying to talk about JavaScript, I'd be like, probably, because it'd be a lot more detailed, specific. I was going to get post-it notes and then have can improve, did well, and then so we can all just write quickly one thing to put on each one. But I don't know how to. I haven't put any post-it notes unless it's done here.
Be prepared.
I know. I wasn't prepared for that.
Just grab the whiteboard marker and just use the whiteboard. If you want, take a photo of it.
Or write on the post-it.